Welcome back, everybody, to part two of um, just random things from the Bible. Here, we left off on part one on First Samuel, and an interesting fact about Saul. Saul was born in the tribe of the Benjamites, yeah. And the Saul from the New Testament, who was converted to Paul, he was also born in the tribe of the Benjamites. So that's just some interesting information. Now let's move on to Second Samuel. Second Samuel is occupied with the story of David. Does not tell the whole story though. First Chronicles tells the story from another standpoint. David was tested, called from being a shepherd in chapter 16 verses 11 through 13 in First Samuel. Um, Victory over Goliath, that's First Samuel chapter 17, and persecuted by Saul in First Samuel chapters 18 through 31. God gave Israel a king after their own heart, who was Saul, and then he gave Israel a king after his own heart, which was David. David made king over Judah in Second Samuel chapters 1 through 4. David was made king over all Israel in 2 Samuel chapters 5 through 24. And David at his very best was 2 Samuel chapters 7 verse 18 through 22. And chapter 8 verses 14 and 15. Yeah. Daniel chapter 2 verses 36 through 45. It talks about the dream that the king had. Daniel had to represent his dream. The gold represents Babylon. Silver is chest, and arms represents Persia, which conquered Babylon. Though a larger kingdom geographically, it was in many ways inferior to Babylon, even as silver is inferior to gold, even though silver is stronger than gold. And it had two parts symbolized by the two arms. Talked about in Daniel chapter 2 verse 39 and chapter 8 verses 20 through 21. The brass represents the empire of Greece under Alexander the Great. The two iron legs represents Rome. It corresponds to the two legs through its division into eastern and western branches. The 10 toes symbolizes 10 kings. It's talked about in Daniel chapter 7 verse 20 and Revelation chapter 17 verse 12. So I guess we haven't reached that one yet. The iron mixed with miry clay is the revived Roman Empire. Daniel chapter 7 is God's view of human government, and it has the eagle, which is America, apparently, because we have the eagle. You know, he's got like the eagle head. There's one with like lion teeth and paws, and well, I mean, you guys can read it. I'm just going off of what I can remember. It was just a weird animal. All right. Understanding First Kings. Kings proves when our all is on the altar, God never keeps us waiting for the fire. And it's talked about in chapter 18, verse 38. Elijah means Jehovah is my God. Elijah was the most outstanding of prophets. It tells Elijah's story in chapter 17 through 22. And moving on to 2 Kings. Now, 2 Kings is just going to be summed up shortly into chapters 1 through 9. Talks about Elisha succeeded Elijah, his trainer. Elijah represented the prophet of judgment, law, and severity. Elisha, the prophet of grace, love, and tenderness. Now here's Malachi. Malachi means my messenger. of the Lord. Sins Malachi rebuked. Spiritless routine worship. Going through the motions. It's talked about in chapters 1, verses 6 through 8. Evil association. It's talked about in chapters 2, verses 10 through 12, which I've also done a video about. It's called Fully Fellowship with Fully Friends. I gotta look at my video again. Alright, questioning Jehovah's justice. It's talked about in chapter 2, verse 17 through chapter 3, verse 6. Robbing God is talked about in chapter 3, verse 7 through 12, which I'm sure you can all already assume he's talking about tithing. And impatience and waiting. It's talked about in chapter 3, verses 17 through chapter 4, verse 3. That's all for this video, but I will do another video right after this one on part 3 of the same thing. So thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.